Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back. Well, this is a very impromptu live stream. I just got everything set up right now. I was originally planning to review the Venom films this week, and uh, I was going to review them today. Had it all set to just sit down and record, but got the news today that my oldest kid is sick and had to be kept out of school, so I had to stay home and take care of them. So I wasn't able to film, and I got quite a bit of work that I got to get done this week. So I just decided, you know what, let's try something a little different, and let's do a live stream tonight and try to get these views uh, knocked out of the way and everything. So yeah, and if anybody's joining me right now, doesn't look like anybody's on right now, but if anybody hops in wants to talk, we got Small Time Republic here. Howdy, hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining. We're going to be reviewing the Venom films tonight, since we got Venom The Last Dance hitting theaters this week. So yeah, so hope you guys are doing well. If you guys would like to chime in your thoughts on these films, as always, feel free to uh, post them in the chat. And I'm kind of looking at two different, screens right now and my camera, because I got my notes over here and I got the chat over here. So I'm going to do my very best to kind of alternate in between them. So, just bear with me. So, yeah, let's start off with Venom from 2018. Venom was directed by Ruben Fleischer, stars Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, and Riz Ahmed. And Venom, of course, is based off the character from Marvel Comics, most notably the Spider-Man comics, before he got his own comic book run eventually. And this is one of the Sony's many Spider-Man films that don't technically feature Spider-Man. And this film is an original take on the Venom origin. As most of you know, Venom is pretty essential to the Spider-Man story, and we'll get to that in just a bit. So, not having Spider-Man in this movie, they had to take different liberties. So, we get an original take on his origin. A little brief summary here. Famed investigative journalist Eddie Brock is attempting to expose the corrupt CEO of the Life Foundation, Carlton Drake, during an interview, but that unfortunately backfires, and that cost Brock his reputation as well as his career, his relationship, and so on. And eventually he attempts to expose Carlton Drake once again. He breaks into the Life Foundation and tries to record all of Carlton Drake's secrets, but he is bonded with an alien entity known as a symbiote. The symbiote reveals himself to be Venom, and together they work to take down a larger threat. Now, what did you guys think of Venom? I'd like to, if you guys are in the chat, what did you guys think? Because I'm going to be honest, my thoughts on these films have changed recently, especially the second one, but we'll get to that in just a moment. But I'll start off with some positives. I thought Venom was fun and enjoyable. It runs close to 2 hours, but to me, it felt like it was a shorter film. And honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That, to me, that just means the pacing was very well done. And there was hardly ever a dull moment, which, going to be honest, I highly appreciated. There was one aspect of the film that I thought was a little bit rushed, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But other than that, the cinematography was very well done. The film was very well put together, edited very well. The special effects I thought were pretty awesome, especially when it came to all of the symbiotes. And I think my personal favorite scene was when we see the last fight scene between Venom and Riot, like where they're the symbiote that eventually bonds to Carlton Drake, Riot. They just tear each other apart. They tear the symbiotes off the other hosts, and then the hosts, Brock and Carlton Drake, are in a fist fight, and while the symbiotes are doing battle, I thought that was a really cool scene. And but Small Time Republic says I thought Venom was pretty good. It's not going to win any Best Acting awards, but solid overall. Yeah, I definitely got some notes about the acting Small Time, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But yeah, I do agree. It was good. It was fun. It was enjoyable. I didn't think it was necessarily a bad film. It just wasn't the greatest, and I probably enjoyed it more the first time that I saw it than I did the second time, if I'm being completely honest. I just rewatched both of these films recently, but it was uh, it was definitely a fun it was a fun experience. I'll say that. But let's see, moving on over here to some more of my notes. And yeah, going back to the cinematography, it was just all of the action scenes I thought were really good, especially the chase scene, like with the where the Carlton Drake's security team is chasing Eddie Brock on a motorcycle. I thought that was really cool, and then that eventually leads to Brock's Venom uh, taking over Brock's body fully for the first time, and so, yeah. And yeah, again, the design, the effects of the symbiotes were great, especially Venom. And I would consider Venom's design to be almost perfect, except for that one detail that he didn't have the iconic giant white spider logo. But of course, he couldn't have had that because that was originally part of Spider Man's symbiote suit. And this movie is Sans Spider Man. So, but overall, I almost would consider it perfect. It was pretty close, and we did get the traditional design in the Spider-Man 3 movie, but I like Spider-Man 3, but it's just I don't know, just Venom's design in that film just throws me off. I don't know if it was just I just didn't find him as menacing as I did in this film, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, Sam Raimi didn't even want to add Venom into that film. It was kind of more or less a last minute uh, decision that the studio kind of made for him or kind of forced him to do. So, but yeah, and but I mean, someday we might get the traditional design. I mean, I'm not sure where Venom: The Last Dance is going to take the story. I've heard rumors, and I'm not going to get into too much speculation into this discussion, but I've heard rumors. So maybe at some point we might get something. I'll take a quick break here and check out the chat. Let's see. Michelle Williams was an interesting casting choice. Normally, you don't think of her with action slash superhero movies. I'll be honest, I haven't actually seen her in any other films, or if I did, um, I just, I probably can't remember them. But yeah, I thought she was fine. They didn't. There wasn't really much for me to invest in with Michelle Williams because they didn't necessarily focus on her too much as. I mean, it was more or less she was kind of there, and I kind of felt like uh, it was cool that they kind of had her become the female Venom. I cannot remember her name. I think it's called She Venom, I think is what it's called in the comics. I cannot remember. Um, but yeah, um, let's see. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and segue into the cast. Overall, it was fine. It wasn't anything memorable, and uh, kind of agreeing with you there. Small time, it wasn't really anything memorable. And Tom Hardy and Riz Ahmed, who played Carlton Drake, were definitely the best performances of the whole movie. And Tom Hardy, I will say this about Tom Hardy: I actually he did a great job. He played both Eddie Brock and he played the voice of Venom, and he did a great job at convincing the audience that they were potentially played by two different people. And because you would see Brock interacting with the Venom symbiote, whether it be Venom's head kind of creeping out of his body and everything, and the way they were talking to each other. uh, I thought that Tom Hardy did a really good job at uh, essentially having a conversation with himself, or you know, he did a great job convincing the audience that that there was a potential that two different actors were playing those characters. So I'd say kudos to him. And when he gets first bonded with the symbiote, I he did a pretty good job at convincing me like that there was something like really wrong with it, like with the symbiote taking over, like constantly hungry, wanting to eat something. And so I think the best, scene that showcased that was at the restaurant where he just dives into the lobster tank and just devours a lobster. So yeah. And as mentioned, yeah, Riz Ahmed, he played the corrupt CEO of the Life Foundation, Carlton Drake, who was later bonded with the Riot symbiote. Riot is, as mentioned, a symbiote who is, as Venom put it, he was kind of the leader back on his planet, and uh, Venom wants to take him down, and Riot wants to kind of cause some catastrophe on Earth. He wants to bring his race to Earth, and Venom is, of course, trying to stop him. But what I liked about Riz Ahmed's performance is he did a great job at portraying a. He was a corrupt CEO, obviously, but he did a great job at playing uh, the two different faces of Carlton Drake. Like in the public eye, he was seen as a very respected, legitimate entrepreneur or businessman, and on this side, his employees see him as this very ruthless employer. And the way he made certain threats towards his staff, especially with the his scientists that um, feeds the tip to Eddie Brock that Carlton Drake, there is like sinister activity going on at the Life Foundation, and she's kind of like a whistleblower in a way and attempts to expose him, but the only person that she can trust is Eddie Brock. So he makes like a very passive aggressive like threat towards her, saying, when she's initially refusing to uh, do human testing when it comes to the symbiotes, like he makes this like passive aggressive threat saying like, you know, he's like, well, think of your kids. How are your kids doing, by the way? I thought the way he pulled off that line was actually pretty effective. And you could kind of feel the tension and just kind of feel her spine tingling as he kind of made that threat, because he's a very powerful man. But to the public eye, he's, a saint, but, he does a pretty good job at playing both sides of the coin, if that makes any sense. All right. All right, I'm going to jump here to the chat real quick. Let's see who we got. It made me think of Little Shop of Horrors, Feed Me Seymour. Yeah, yeah, that's true. I didn't actually think about that, but yeah, now that you mentioned that, I see it too. And um, let's see who else we got. We got Quinlan Voss. Hey there, Brennan. How you doing, man? I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well yourself, man. You love Venom? Yeah, I love Venom too. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters, not just for Spider-Man comics, but he's one of my favorites. Let There Be Carnage is okay. Yeah, I'm definitely about to get into my thoughts on that. I'm still making my way through Venom 2018. You're optimistic about The Last Dance, and Tom Hardy makes these films for sure. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Brennan. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Yeah, we're gonna be making our way through Venom in just a moment. We're gonna also talk about Venom: Let There Be Carnage, and let's just about to get into some negatives with Venom. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about some negatives. Now, my negatives mostly are just more or less a nitpick. It's essentially, the fact that this is a Venom film without Spider-Man. And I'm not saying necessarily that you can't make a Venom film without Spider-Man, because, they obviously have. They made two of them, but it's more or less, I was skeptical that his origin was not going to be tied to Spider-Man necessarily. And again, I'm not sure where this version of Venom is going to where is going to go. I guess we'll find out this week, but it's just the character of Venom is very essential to Spider-Man because he's one of Spider-Man's biggest threats. And not only that, Venom's name is actually influenced because of Spider-Man. In the film, it was just that was just the name of the symbiote. But in in the comics and other Spider-Man media, Venom has stated that he considers himself poison to both Peter Parker and Spider-Man and Venom, essentially. So the fact that I don't know, it just when you don't, have that element, it just kind of undermines the character, and it's just like, well, why is he called Venom? But it's just, that was just his original name, and I didn't really like that, if I'm being completely honest. But as an origin story itself, trying to, separate the lack of Spider-Man aspect to this, I will say I thought that the story and, the original take on Venom's origin was serviceable, and it could work if I didn't know anything about Venom going into this movie and I just saw it for the first time. I could see myself believing that that was his original story, but I don't. And I knew about Venom. And I just think when you take away, Spider Man, I just kind of feel like it takes away a huge element to Venom's character, if that makes sense. But yeah, whatever. Let me know what you guys think down in the chat. I'm going to check out my notes here real quick. We did get some Easter eggs to Spider-Man, like very small ones. At the beginning of the movie, we get that uh, cameo appearance of John Jameson, who is, of course, the son of J. Jonah Jameson, Peter Parker's boss. Um, but like I said, the story itself, it wasn't great. It was not horrible. It was okay. It was serviceable. It was workable. But it's just, I kind of feel like if you were to maybe make this movie a sequel to some events from the comics, like maybe this is supposed to be more or less the storyline to Venom Lethal Protector, which there's like some Easter eggs to that storyline, but maybe this could be you could have had like an opening montage where maybe we see like an animated montage where we see Venom interacting with Spider-Man, and like maybe Tom Hardy could have narrated his story, then bringing us into this. That could have been better, in my opinion. But I could see why they probably didn't do that. They not sure who they were going to connect these films to, like if it was going to be Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire. Well, not Tobey Maguire, his Venom died, or Tom Holland, which eventually they revealed that he was potentially going to interact with Tom Holland. And again, I'll get to that in just a moment. But I'm going to take a quick break here and check out the chat. We got one more. Small Time Republic says, at some point, you've got to have a payoff with Spider-Man. Maybe eventually Madam Web, Venom, and Craven will all be in one with him. Yeah, I hope so. Have you guys seen Madam Web? I didn't really care for that one. I was going to review that one at one point, but that was one of those films I was just like, I just kind of want to forget about it. But I am curious to see where the Craven the Hunter movie goes. Craven the Hunter looks like it could be somewhat decent. And that's one that you could potentially get away with not having Spider-Man in the movie, because Craven the Hunter's origin isn't necessarily tied to Spider-Man, as I think Craven the Hunter had his own abilities before he even met Spider-Man. So that's one I'm intrigued to see for sure. Now, my biggest issue with the movie Venom was, and again, let me know what you guys think. My biggest issue with the story was that I felt like Venom was contained, and it's probably, and actually I know it's been said more often than not, that this film should have been rated R. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of agree, because the film itself was just contained. Like Venom is a pretty lethal character, as is known as the Lethal Protector, and he's caused you know some pretty epic stuff in the comics, and he's obviously not afraid to kill people, or he's not afraid to cross the line when it comes to getting back at Spider-Man or other Marvel characters. And this was all, of course, before he became an anti-hero, or but he's the film was just contained, especially when it came to like the violence and the gore, like because we see people like literally getting their heads bitten off, and there's like little to no blood, and I couldn't really, that kind of took me out of it, like because that was it was very tame, and I kind of felt like there could have been more. I know that they were catering to a PG-13 rating, but I just don't really see why the film needed to be PG-13. Like I kind of felt like this movie would have been a lot better if it was like a rated R, like action horror film. But we got what we got, and it's not, again, it's not a horrible movie, but it could have been better. There was a lot of potential, but it just wasn't there. Um, but that definitely wasn't the case when it came to the symbiote violence. Like I mentioned earlier, like Riot and Venom were literally tearing each other to pieces, and it looked really awesome, especially when they were tearing each other off their each other's hosts, and you see the Eddie and Carlton Drake, fighting it out while the symbiotes are fighting it out. I thought that was a really cool scene. But yeah, again, Venom, it was okay. Um, this originally was, I thought was worse than Venom Let There Be Carnage, but I watched Venom Let There Be Carnage the other night, and my thoughts on that have changed. So for Venom, I'm going to give it a C. It's serviceable. It's fun. It's enjoyable. The Tom Hardy's acting, especially when he's portraying two different characters, I thought was pretty decent. But it was very contained. It had a lot of potential to be something great, and it just didn't live up to that potential, in my opinion. But again, when it came to its sequel, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, my thoughts have changed. Now, Venom, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit to my Let There Be Carnage notes. But before I do that, I'm going to take a quick break and just check in on the chat and see what you guys have to say. Small Time Republic says it looked like they threw Madam Web together sloppily. Even the voice dubbing with some of the actors was off. Yeah, it was, and the acting in that movie in general was just terrible. I've only seen that once, and I posted my reaction to it. I was just in the theater. I was just like, yeah, that was like my legit reaction to that movie, and it didn't really. The thing is, and it's going back to them trying to make Spider-Man films without Spider-Man. Now, this one was probably the closest that we got because we technically did see Spider-Man in Madam Web. It was a baby. It was Peter Parker, and we saw Uncle Ben. But my thing is, what annoys me is that when they keep trying to tiptoe around who that baby is, and we know that that's Peter Parker, but I remember them playing like guess the name of the baby at the Mary Parker's baby shower. And when they finally about to review it, like there's like a noise in the background. So I'm just like, we know who it is. We know who it is. Like there's no reason whatsoever to tiptoe around that. I mean, even if they were just trying to hide, I heard that they were wanting to connect the Madam Web movies to the Andrew Garfield movies. And it was like, even if that was the case, like you didn't need to tiptoe around it. We know who that baby is that's about to be born. So it was just, the acting wasn't the greatest. And I can't remember the actor's name who played, what's his name? Ezekiel. I like the costume that Ezekiel wore, that very dark, evil Spider-Man looking costume. I like that costume, but I just didn't like the actor. I thought his performance wasn't the greatest. So there we go. 3 reviews and 1 live stream. So we got one more comment right here. The rumor is that Emma Roberts, that played Peter Parker's mom, was supposed to have a bigger role, and there were rewrites. It was a cluster. I did hear about all the rewrites. Yeah, there was they were, and I even heard that they were going to try to tie, like I mentioned, they were going to tie these films to the Andrew Garfield movies, but they just did a ton of rewrites, and they wanted to disconnect to any of the Spider-Man actors, whether it be Maguire, Tom Holland, or Andrew Garfield. And let's just say that when it came to the edits, they were noticeable, and you can just the quality of the film just went even further down after that. All right, we got MM12YT in the chat. He says hi. Hi, thanks for joining us. We're talking about the Venom films today. We just reviewed the first Venom film from 2018. And now we're going to move on to Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This premiered in 2021. This was directed by Andy Serkis, and it featured quite a bit of the cast from the first movie: Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, and even Woody Harrelson, who played Cletus Cassidy. He was technically in the Venom film. He was in the credits scene, and they teased Carnage in that scene. And this also features Naomi Harris, who plays Shriek, the love interest of Cletus Cassidy. Little brief summary about Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Eddie Brock exposes Cletus Cassidy's secrets of where he's hid several bodies, and Cletus Cassidy is sentenced to death, and Brock's fame is starting to resurface. However, he is currently under investigation from the authorities because of he and Venom's lethal protector activity. During an interaction, though, between Brock and Cassidy, some of Venom's symbiote is able to infect Cletus Cassidy, and during his execution, the Carnage symbiote, which is the symbiote offspring of Venom, resurfaces in Cassidy's blood, turning him into the mass murdering psychopathic symbiote known as Carnage. While all of this is going on, Venom and Brock are having disagreements, and they eventually separate. So they have to put aside their differences to take down Cassidy before he reunites with the love of his life, Shriek, who they've known each other from their past, essentially. So, yeah. Venom, Let There Be Carnage, or as it should be called, Venom, Let There Be Some Carnage. This is one of the biggest setups in comic book film history. I remember I was excited whenever they teased Carnage. A lot of people were excited because Venom and Carnage, again, are very crucial characters, not only to each other, but to Spider-Man. And we get barely maybe 5 to 10 minutes of what we were hoping for with this movie. Yeah, there's very little carnage in this movie, not just with the symbiote itself, but with what Carnage is capable of. It was a huge letdown, guys. Like I said, I thought that this film was originally better than the original Venom movie, and I watched it the other night, and my views have went down. They have changed. But I'm going to go ahead and get into some of my notes over here. As for the movie itself, it was amusing. It was entertaining at times, but it took the silliness factor. And I noticed that a lot of comic book movies now are doing this. Like, they're wanting to make them more comedic in a way. And with this one, they kind of dialed it up or multiplied it by 7. And but the cinematography was pretty decent. And again, I enjoyed the symbiote effects. It was very accurate to how I would see it being portrayed in the comic books. And I actually liked it more than the first film, especially the scene with Carnage escaping from prison that I'll get to in just a minute. But other than that, those are where my positives end on that front, guys. I like this film less now. I don't think it's a horrible movie. It's amusing, as I mentioned. It's entertaining, but again, it's a huge letdown, and it kind of like annoys me with they teased again one of the biggest matches in comic book history, Venom and Carnage, potentially would have been an awesome battle, and we barely even get that. And when we do get that, it's like at the end of the movie for like 5 minutes. Yeah, most of this film was focusing on that silly subplot between Eddie and Brock's, you know, bromance, roommate drama, if you will, and their ability to tolerate each other and work together, and eventually they separate. And it's just, what are we here for? Like, why are we watching so much of this? Like, this is not what we wanted to see. Like, we want to see Venom and Carnage fighting, and or we want to see, Carnage create mass chaos. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, Carnage like haunts my nightmares. Like, out of all the villains, he's the one that I would be scared of the most. Like, if you were to put me in an alleyway and there's two ways out, on one end there's the Joker, and on one end there was Carnage, I would be running towards the Joker because I would feel safer with him. I didn't feel like that when it came to this Carnage. Like, he was, again, just like my complaints with the first film, he was very, very tame. He was toned down. He didn't really live up to his name. Like, from what I've read when it came to Carnage, like, he is a psychopathic, menacing force to be reckoned with. And it just, it didn't show that as much as I was hoping they would. And again, I kind of felt like if this film took different directions, especially when it came to focusing on certain subplots, or I kind of felt like it would have been a better movie. And again, this definitely should have been a rated R movie. Like, it's if I feel like I know it was catering to a PG-13 rating, just like the first one was, but this one definitely did not need to be a PG-13 rated movie, because I kind of felt like if you were to make it a rated R film and just kind of, focus on the potential that, Carnage and Venom could have created, then it would have been a so much better movie. But again, we got what we got. I'm going to take a quick break here. I thought Venom Let There Be Carnage was fine. It didn't make as much money, but people were still skittish on going to the theaters in 2021. Yeah. I didn't let that stop me in 2021. I want to say that was still around the time where we had mask mandates, but I can't quite remember. I remember I saw Let There Be Carnage as a matinee, and so there was really nobody else in the theater, even whether mask mandates or not. But again, I first saw Carnage in the Spider-Man 2000 PlayStation video game. Do you guys remember that one that came out near 2000? It was originally on PC, and I believe it was moved to PlayStation 1. That was my introduction into Carnage, and he freaked me out. Like, that fight scene with like that very menacing, ominous music, that freaked me out. And ever since then, he became like a villain that would haunt my nightmares. And he didn't live up to what I was hoping. I know I sound like a broken record when I say that, but it's just there was so much potential for this to be a very epic comic book movie featuring two very popular epic comic book characters, and we just got 5 minutes of it, and Carnage was just taken down just like that. I mean, and not only that, they killed off Cletus Cassidy. Like, I didn't really see a need for that. Like, I wish that they would have kept him alive and maybe hinted that Carnage would return, but nope. They just decided we're done, kill him off, and it was a letdown. The pacing of the film is around the film itself is around 90 minutes, and that also hurt the movie to me because it just kept going from here to here to here to here to here. Excuse me. And it was just too much all at once. And because, we have Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy. We have Eddie Brock rebuilding his career after exposing Cassidy's secrets. We have Cassidy getting the Carnage symbiote and him trying to find Shriek. And then we have Eddie and Brock, or Venom and Eddie, excuse me, separating. And then Venom is off, doing his own thing. And hold on that note, I want to say this. What was the deal with that rave scene? What point was that rave? Did that rave scene, what was the point of that? None. Because, and I showed that scene to my wife the other night, and she just got a good chuckle out of it. But there was literally no point for that scene. And I was like, why are we here? Why are we watching this? Like, why are we not seeing Venom and Carnage fighting? Or why are we not seeing Carnage, like, creating mass chaos? Yes, he does, but it's not near to as destructive as Carnage could be. I know I'm going on a rant about this, but it really annoyed me. There was no purpose for that rave scene. I didn't even think it was funny. I just think I thought it was a waste of time, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, the pacing was pretty bad. It was just moving from here to here to here to here. It wasn't, and it was just trying to get us to the whole movie itself was just trying to get us to the mid-credit scene where we see Venom being brought into the MCU and him realizing that Spider-Man is on TV, and then which is disappointing. Like, I mean, what do you guys think? Small Time Republic says the lizard might be in Venom: The Last Dance. Yeah, I saw that. We have. I saw that him in the trailers. Risa Fan, who's played the lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man movies and in Spider-Man: No Way Home. Yeah, I saw that. I was kind of wondering if maybe if this is like if it'll show like an origin of how Kirk Connors lost his arm. That'd be kind of interesting. Because they kind of that'd be kind of cool. It'd be kind of tied into the Insomniac video games. Because if you guys have not played Spider-Man 2 on PS5, I'm about to spoil something. So there's your warning. But yeah, they kind of tied Kirk Connors' origin of how he lost his arm to the Venom symbiote. But that's all I'll say. I won't spoil too much. But as far as the acting goes, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't worthy of any Oscars. Tom Hardy, I thought, did just as good a job at playing both Brock and Venom and interacting with each other very well. Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, I thought was okay. Again, it was very contained. It didn't really live up to what I think Woody Harrelson could have done for the role. And on that note, uh, I didn't like the symbiotes' voices, especially for Carnage, because Carnage to me sounds like what Venom should have sounded like in this film. Because I have issues with how Venom sounded in this film, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But it was very low pitched. It was very more serious. But Carnage is very Carnage to me sounds like you should like the how the Joker should sound multiplied by 11, like very menace. Like if you mix the Joker and the Green Goblin, mix them together, you know, and put their voice and mic their voice and distort it. That's to me is what Carnage should sound like. And it was it was disappointing. But and what was the deal with Venom's voice? Like I don't know if you guys noticed, but it really changed since the first movie. Like it was more menacing in the first movie, and in this one it was more comedic. And in the second one, it sounded to me like the Cookie Monster had laryngitis or something. like I, it just kind of undermined Venom in a way. So yeah, overall, Venom Let There Be Carnage. Venom Let There Be Carnage was it wasn't horrible. It was amusing. At times, it was entertaining. The symbiote fight scenes, what little we got of it, were okay, and the effects were very well done. Cinematography was pretty good, but overall, it was just the story itself again was very contained. I kind of feel like this should have been a movie where Venom goes up against Carnage early in the film. He realizes that he's a monster of a symbiote and a force to be reckoned with. And like he realizes he can't defeat Carnage, and that leads to some uh, tension between Venom and Brock, and they separate. But then while they separate, Carnage goes on a you know a destructive violent spree across the state or across the country, and Venom and Brock have to again overcome their differences to chase down Carnage and find a way to stop him. That would have been better, but that's not what we got. Instead, we get a 5-minute battle in a church scene, and yeah. So I gave Venom a C. I'm going to give Venom Let There Be Carnage at very best a C minus. Um, Again, the best part about the movie, or one of the best parts about the movie, is the mid-credit scene. But I'm curious where that's going, because from what I've seen from the trailers, there it looks like it's not going in the direction that I thought. So um, I guess we'll find out. Yeah. So yeah, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, I give a C minus at very best. But what did you guys think? What would you guys rate these films if you like letter grade, scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 10? What would you guys do? And take a quick drink. But anything that you're hoping for Venom: The Last Dance? I'm trying to avoid the trailers because lately trailers have just been showing way too much. And I mean, the cool thing that I saw is that we now know that Null is going to be in the movie, and apparently, uh, in other news, Tom Holland has read the script for the fourth Spider-Man movie, and it's supposed to be like amazing, but it needs work, but it's really good. But Small Time Republic gives Venom a B plus and Venom 2 a B minus. Okay, cool. I am glad that you enjoyed those movies more than I did. I just couldn't get past some of the. I just couldn't get past some things, And especially whenever I rewatched them, like I guess when I first saw them, I was willing to like put some aspects of the story beside, like, the lack of Spider-Man in this. But it's just after rewatching these, and this is like no disrespect to like any of the actors, I thought they did very well, but it just didn't live up to its potential that I think it could have been. I'd like an Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland cameo in the new Venom movie. Doubt we'll get it. I would too. And I remember reading or seeing on the news that not Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield said that they interviewed him. They asked him if he would be up for playing Spider-Man again, and he says that he's always up for playing Spider-Man. So I was actually getting into a conversation with my coworker about that. Like, we want to see a Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man is like much older and he has to come back to be Spider-Man again. Kind of similar to that, what's that called? Spider-Man Reign, that comic where Peter Parker is like really older. I think that'd be a perfect movie for Tobey Maguire to play in, like, because he's in his mid-40s now, I think. Like, maybe a few years, like, they could make a film like that. That'd be really awesome. I'd like to see that. Maybe kind of conclude Tobey Maguire's story arc. And of course, I'd always be up for the Amazing Spider-Man 3 because I want to see, Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man, and I kind of want him to get the third movie and kind of get the, not necessarily an ending to his story, but like a good place to, leave him to move on to something else, if that makes any sense. And there's something else I was going to say. I'm sorry, guys. I completely forgot. But how long have we been talking here? I can't quite tell. Oh, about 45 minutes, 47 minutes. Nice. It's a good stream. I enjoyed. I've been meaning to do a live stream for a while. I've been wanting to get more of my reviews out, but it's just with work and taking care of my kids and everything. I just have not had the time. And I told myself recently, like, man, I keep saying that I'm going to get a video out, but then something comes up, and like, maybe I should just start live streaming more. I mean, kind of like how me and the Geek Static and Stupid Chainsaw Productions and Matt Wilkins used to, like, those were some great times, and I'd like to start doing that again. But I know that we're planning to stream again on Paper Movies. We're going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. So, yeah, maybe down the line we'll get some more live streams, and we don't even have to be talking about movies. We could just find several topics, maybe make a kind of like a podcast going forward. That'd be kind of cool. Let's see, what time are we at here? 9:30. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I think I'll just go ahead and call it good here. I got to get to bed here in a minute. I got to be at work pretty early in the morning. Like I said, I promised you guys a review of the Venom films. I might, take the stream and kind of edit it. Maybe make the reviews, like make a video for each review. So, yeah, we'll see. And, but guys, thank you so much for checking out the stream. Thanks for chiming in on the chat, and you guys, really do appreciate all the support. And I know this was a very impromptu stream, but I do thank you guys so much for joining me. And stay tuned. I'm planning to go see Venom: The Last Dance either Thursday or Friday. I'll probably post my reaction to it, and I'll probably get my review out as soon as I can. But guys, really do appreciate everything. Thanks so much, Small Time, for joining us in the stream, and everybody else, Brennan, MM12YT. Thank you guys so much for checking out the stream, and really do appreciate it. And hope you guys have a great one. I'll see you next time.